So today I want to talk to you about a terminology I call escape velocity. And escape velocity is very simple. It is basically taking all of your monthly expenses and all of your monthly income and adding them up together, right? And do not include things like food and gas. Okay. So imagine you earn $4,000 per month, and you have gym, Amazon Prime, your rent, your maintenance, maybe a cleaning lady if you're lucky, or maybe you're taking some dance classes. So there's monthly expenses that you will pay no matter what. And once you understand that, then you can actually go to step two. And step two is basically just putting this all on paper. So what I did is I just opened up Google Gemini, and what we're going to do is we're just going to say, hey, Google Gemini, can you please create us a simple monthly budget? What I want to see is my $4,000 income every month I get from my job, and I want to subtract $1,500 for rent, and I also want to subtract $20 for Netflix and $60 for the gym, right? So this will be our prompt, and okay. My phone started acting up. Um, so all we did is we just say, this is the hardest part. I feel like for the people to get started, it is this part, and that's why I think just a simple one, that basically it will give you a lot of ideas of what to put. So let's just take a look at this. So it's exactly what I said, and this is great. You can open this up in the spreadsheets right away, and I recommend that. So I recommend that you keep a up-to-date list. Now with AI, I guess you could just keep this context and keep it going, right? So if I say, hey, can you also add the $80 monthly transport expense? I forgot about it. I have a car, maybe it's paid off, and the $80 is my insurance. So you can be very descriptive, and be very expressive. And the more you explain to AI, the better the budget's going to be. By the way, this is miles ahead. I built my budget years ago, and I just didn't put it all in a spreadsheet. And every month I'll go through my credit card statement and my bank account. I go through every single transaction. I classify it. Make sure if it's a recurring expense, it's there. If it's not recurring expense, I just would like to know. If basically, if you take up all of your expenses, and if you take your income and add them together, at the end of the month you'll get a number, right? Let's say you get $1,000 to basically for any variable expenses you get $1,000, right? And really, if you think about it, hey, look, you got a $4,000 paycheck, and now only $1,000 remains. This is why we're suffering, right? And if you think about it, everything everything is a subscription nowadays. Things that were not are now a subscription, and even things like Netflix, which were like $6, are now $30, right, and above. And so that's really where a lot of your money comes from. Now, so one thing I want to make clear is I'm not saying go and live off rice and beans, right? This video is not about that. Like you probably got some expenses once you put them on paper, and then once you realize that, hey, do I really need Netflix? Do I really need to save on Netflix, right? And there's probably some expenses you'll be able to probably cut right away. It's just once you put them on paper, you will see exactly what I mean. You might also have debt. And what I recommend is, honestly, before doing anything, is pay off your debt. I think it's the best. It's the best investment. And once you get to, so basically, if you have debt, you have negative monetary velocity, right? So or negative escape velocity. So it means every month you're losing money at a faster rate. Yeah, really, you don't want this. So basically, it's $0 escape velocity. That's your goal, right? You want to get to a part where all of your expenses are paid off by passive income. And really, that's kind of the last part of this, is all the passive income options. What are they, right? Well, you got a job, right? And if you have a job, you can get a second job, right? You can get some gig work. Find a hobby. That's my recommendation. Find something that you love, and if it can make you money, amazing. You want that. Examples. Why not bake something, right? I mean, you can just bake something and sell it. Hey, I know it sounds crazy, but you got to start somewhere, right? You got to start something that you will enjoy, and then it should also make you money. And I mean, there are things like Uber. So I would say, if you're doing things like Uber Eats, to me, it's just that would be probably your last option, in my opinion, because it doesn't really that kind of work doesn't really move you forward. What I mean, yes, you will get paid, but that is really just probably to cover some of your some of your velocity, right? So you're like maybe rent or car insurance, right? And in my opinion, if you can find something that you're enjoying, and this could be like woodworking, or maybe um, maybe like tutoring a second language, or maybe you spend a lot of time on games. Maybe why not make a YouTube channel? So what I'm saying is, just don't get stuck in that mindset that there is no escape. In my opinion, find what your hobby is. Find something that's interesting. If you're bored all the time, you probably haven't really found your hobby. So this last part, once you have a budget like this, and once you see all the numbers, really, you're gonna see it. If you have like $1,000 out of your $4,000 every month, life isn't that fun, right? But imagine if your escape velocity is at $0, and then every month, you imagine you go to work, you get paid $4,000, and you get $4,000 to spend on whatever you want. You want to invest it, or you want to go on a trip, whatever you want. That is the ultimate goal, right? And I'm telling you, once you get to $0, the rest is very easy, because once you break this point and make more money than your expenses, well, guess what? You're just basically investing every dollar, because sure, you'll go on some trips, but are you gonna take a trip every month, right? Do you need like what do you need? A house, maybe, and then you work towards that. Maybe you have a bigger house. Like, so what I'm saying is, look, just put all your numbers on a budget. AI is here to help. You can just dump all the information. You might not even need to dump information. Just go to your bank account, export it into like export it in some file, give it to AI, and say, hey, here's my bank report. Can you classify it and figure out what my expenses are? That's it. So basically, it's just, I don't really think a lot of people know how much money they have at the end of the month, right? So they'll go and buy something, but how much can you buy every month? So when people like tell you to do budget, it's just, to me, I hate that, like being limited to something, right? That's why I prefer this. This will give you your maximum, and if you spend more than maximum, hey, there's times so you got to go and replace tires on your car, or maybe there's an emergency, right? There will be times when you go above what your remaining amount is, and this is why you need savings, right? So it's just without savings, if you just think about it, if you have $1,000 and you spend more than $1,000 a month, that's it. You're like in the trap of debt, because once you reach this point, guess what? Things will get more and more expensive, and as they always do. So last part, I just want to talk about yield again, right? So where do you really get the how do you break the cycle? Well, you can work maybe a second job, or maybe you can invest. And most famous things to invest are things like real estate, which is great if you have some. That's a great way of your mortgage is an investment. I know it seems like a loan, but it is an investment, because ideally you're paying, let's say, 4% on your mortgage. And ideally, the rate of return on a house over 30 years is going to be more than that. So I think for a lot of people that have houses, they have this investment. They don't really consider it as an investment because they just think it's a monthly expense. But I would say my best investment ever has been a house because it is just something that you're paying towards, and automatically behind the scenes, you really you're actually growing. Um, you're actually growing your assets. So anyway, I just keep jumping back to the spreadsheet because to me this is really the most important part. Look, if you can take 15 minutes, I'm not asking you to spend 30 days, 15 minutes, just jot it down, right? High points. Look, just like even cover this: housing, transport. That is probably going to be your two main categories. Just think about that. How much do you spend on your mortgage or rent, and how much do you spend on your car? So just add those two up. I would say those will be your biggest ones. I know they are for me. Those two are the most expensive things I have, and everything, things like gym and maybe some Netflix, those things is just such a small percentage, and that doesn't, it's, I try, even if you try to save, you try to save $20 per month. If you're paying $1,000 for your rent, what's the difference? Like, it's not gonna be that big of a deal. But really, yeah, $20 is a lot when you have $100 remaining for your escape velocity, and that's 20% more money at the end of the month. That's a huge amount, right? And then if you think about it, if you have $1,000 left and you're spending $400 on a car, just think about how much more efficient it would be to take a transport, right? So anyway, it's a really interesting subject, and I feel like I've been doing this for the last 3 years, and actually, sorry, I've been doing this for the last 7 years, really. And it's probably one of the reasons I've created my own token specifically focused on yield, is because I always felt like this is the missing part. Because once you see the numbers and once you start thinking, where do you get passive income? Then you fall into this risk trap, right? It's like passive income comes, like, or I would say high percentage comes with a lot of risk, right? And to me, that's always been my kind of driving factor. How do I reach escape velocity, but also in a meaningful way, right? Because, like, well, you could have just $10 million. It was $10 million. You can reach your escape velocity, but of course we don't. So, it's like, what is the most interesting way to make your money work for you, right? And yeah, it's that's been my kind of, I don't know. I think that's like why I also like things like masternodes and staking in crypto, was because that is contributing to this, right? But I always felt like those things never really scaled well. It's just inflation, and eventually it just gets to a certain point where it's just not sustainable. So, or once again, the percent is so low that you can get higher percent return in traditional markets like ETFs. And anyway, it's just the reason why I think I created my coin as well. It's because this is the problem I want to solve. It's like, how do we get to this escape velocity in a meaningful way? I just didn't like any of the investment choices that I had. It's like everything just seems like risky, or it just doesn't really feel like innovative enough. So yep, that's it. Just go create this thing. It's gonna take you 15 minutes. Okay. Thanks, everyone.